Welcome to the Art and Science of Joy podcast. This podcast is all about inspiring people to live more joyfully. So if you're seeking a bit more joy in your own life or seeking to bring some more joy to the lives of others, then this podcast could well be for you. And welcome to the Year of Joy series, in which I talk to experts on special powers, which we call joy superpowers, each and every one of us can cultivate in order to build more joy into our lives. I'm Andrew Cannon, and I have the honor to be your host. And in this episode, I'm excited to be talking with Heidi Smith on the joy ingredient of mental well-being, and specifically about the joy superpower of transforming tragedy into triumph. Heidi is a best-selling author, transformation guide, speaker, and Accelerated Evolution Academy master coach and trainer, with a deep passion for guiding her clients towards their natural state of joy. Heidi's approach is to make room for joy by helping people let go of limiting beliefs and negative emotions that hold them back from embracing their true selves. Heidi's best-selling book, Making Friends with the Boogeyman, is packed with her powerful insights and practical strategies for navigating difficult emotions and life challenges. Drawing on her own personal experience with intense childhood trauma, anxiety, and addiction, Heidi offers readers candid choice stories and empowering tools to reclaim their personal power and create an extraordinary life full of abundance, peace, love, and joy. And who doesn't want more of that? Welcome to the show,
Yay.
Heidi.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Andrew. What a pleasure. I'm thrilled with a year of joy, just putting that whole message out there. Bless you and Debbie and all your team.
Oh, thank you so much. And we're so grateful to have you collaborating with us on the Year of Joy project. You are very much appreciated. So let's dive into this massive topic, really, about transforming tragedy to triumph. And maybe a good place is to start, which you alluded to in your own bio, about your own journey with tragedy, and if you don't mind sharing about that.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I'm here to share what I have been through with the intention of demonstrating what's possible, as was done for me, right? I learned so much from other people who were willing to be vulnerable with their struggles and their solutions, right? That's such an important piece, is to spend more time on the solutions, to spend more time on the joy. However, we need the context, as you say. So tragedy, challenging childhood. One of the largest challenges was an intense experience that involved my mother, and that shut me down. It closed off the joy, definitely. It filled me with anger and distrust for the world. It was a shock to my family because they didn't know what happened. And in recent years, when I told my dad what happened, he's like, "Oh, that makes sense, because you went from being this happy-go-lucky child to this angry, just resentful acting out. We didn't know what to do with you, but now it all makes sense." And yeah, so that was the thing, is, I had this terrible experience, and it informed everything that I did. So like I said, there was a lot of anger, and I didn't have anyone to help me with how to cope with that. And so I moved into addiction, because that's what I saw, and that's what I learned, is I used drugs and alcohol to shut down all of these intense emotions that I had.
So obviously, I'm sorry to hear about your own experience. Obviously, very challenging to go through such an intense childhood experience, which, as you said, sort of impacts us for a long time if we don't have anybody to talk to. And it seems strange that, children especially seem very vulnerable to this, and they're sort of almost not believed, as it were, if they try to tell somebody about an intense experience. I don't know if that's something that you can relate to as well, sort of this as a child trying to speak up and not being heard, or was it something you just shut down totally and didn't even bother to talk about?
The decision that I made is that adults were not trustworthy. That was it. Like anybody in authority back then, that was, I did not trust anyone. It was all on, like, what I took was that I had to do everything myself. That was one of the stories. And when I did eventually tell somebody about it, which I think it was about 5 years, something like that, nothing was done. Nothing was done. And, I look back now, and when I told someone, I could have done things differently, right? And it's not about blaming myself, because I certainly don't, but it is recognizing that I have a part in every situation. And back then, the choice I made, which was the best choice I could make at the time, right? It's doesn't serve us to go back and, well, I should have done this. And because the mind that's making that decision now, that wasn't the person I was back then. So it's unfair to do that to ourselves.
It is. And as I said, many people I've talked to who had similar experiences and have spoken up, they have the situation where, they weren't believed, that generally the adult voice. So they end up in the same place, quite often anyway, of finding drugs, alcohol, other addictions as a way to dampen the pain, I suppose, and to escape from a situation they don't know how to deal with. So is this common? Is this something you come up against often during your work?
Yes,
these sort
absolutely.
of childhood intense experiences.
Yeah, well, even bigger than that, I mean, the people that I work with are, they experience emotion deeply, as did I. I am a sensitive being, and so the people that I work with are very sensitive. And so as children, we're wide open, and our emotions are big and beautiful. And I got the messages that was too much. And so it's, the journey was shutting that all down. Like, it wasn't okay to be exuberant. It wasn't okay to be as angry as I was, so that was what my experience was. And so, when we spend years shutting ourselves down, and then we're an adult and we're not in touch with who we are, we can't find out our purpose. We don't trust ourselves. We can't let people close to us. Intimacy is a challenge. These are the things that happen when you've shut down, because if you shut down one part of yourself, you don't know what the impact is. Like, so many areas become shut down. Like our initial survival instinct is to, okay, this hurts, so I'm going to shut this down. But as we get older, everything has been shut down. And so then it becomes, a journey of reclaiming all of these things.
So, that's really looking at some of these sort of negative impacts that this tragedy can have on us, and not dealing with it. So I like this concept. I don't like it, but I like the way you talk about this shutting down sort of feeling, because I think that's something I recognize from my own journey, that you block it, or in my case, I got a strong ego out to protect myself. So that was sort of my go-to way of dealing with this and shutting down. And that has an obviously huge impact, because that leads you down the path of overprotecting yourself and blaming others and finding fault everywhere else. It can't be your fault, right? Because you've got this little boy inside of you, in my case, to protect. So the ego takes over and comes up with all these wonderful reasons why somebody else gets to be blamed for this. So I suppose shutting down is one. Do you often also see this concept? I've heard a lot about people being a victim and taking
Yes.
on this sort of victim mentality. Tell me a bit about that from your experience.
Well, I mean, all of these things have their purpose. Like being a victim is necessary in life. Like if something is done to you, there is a place for having that experience and going through that. What happens is when we hold on to that identity and, we see ourselves permanently as a victim. The longer we hold on to that identity, the more it wreaks havoc with our lives because it's not natural. The natural state is to move through it, to allow it to serve its purpose and then move on. And so this is, actually a big part of what I do with people is when we are spending time in victim, as I did in my experience, I gave all my power away, right? So, if I'm waiting for someone else to do something for me to feel better, that is ridiculous when you look at it logically, right? That was it Nelson Mandela that said, resentment is like drinking poison and expecting someone else to die. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And so when people come to me, that's an important strategy that I introduce to them is like to explore any of those victim feelings and, allow them to be heard and learn what is the purpose there? What is the gift? What's good in that situation? And then take that, because when you are the one that is, responsible for your happiness, that means that you get to do whatever it takes to be happy and no one can stop you.
It's reclaiming your power in a way. So we got this shutting down, we've got this victim sort of holding on to being a victim, making that part of your identity. I think you talked about as two things which then have these knock-on negative effects. I think you mentioned obviously addictive behavior being one, and then you mentioned negative impact on relationships as well, I think, as another. Are there any other ways sort of this can sort of have a knock-on negative effect on people's lives if they don't start to overcome these intense experiences or tragedies?
Well, the most important relationship is with yourself. And I mean, this has a huge impact on you. Learning how to best take care of yourself, right? To recognize that whatever you've done in the past was necessary. You did the best that you could at the time. And now you're in a place in your life where these strategies that you created, decades ago are not serving you. And in fact, they're causing suffering. And so it's like learning to, self-compassion is a major lesson that is, it just is such a powerful thing to give to ourselves, to be kind to ourselves the way that we are kind to others. I mean, when I meet people that have experienced tragedy, they are, their hearts are huge. They have so much kindness and love for other people. However, because they've shut down from whatever it is they haven't had yet dealt with, they're not giving that compassion to themselves. And they tend to be really hard on themselves. Yes.
Yeah, I can definitely see that as a pattern that people who have that intense experience can do that. And obviously we talk here about very intense things that happened. But I presume at some level everybody has some form of tragedy, some form of intense experience in their life. So I presume all of our listeners, to some degree, can relate to what we're talking about today.
I would agree with that totally. It's ultimately, now that I've been doing this, as my vocation, what I see is it's not about the event. It's about the impact it's having on your life now. So no one it doesn't matter what other people think about the situation. What matters is what you think about it and how it's impacting you. And so if something is holding you back from experiencing the joyful being that you are, then it's time to address that. It's time to find support and guidance to just, make room for joy. As I say, it's like, it's just moving things out of the way to allow your authentic self to blossom again.
I think that's really important, because I think many people can belittle their experiences and say, oh, there's a lot more suffering in the world. That person over there is suffering much more than I am, that group over there. And then they sort of get stuck and they don't then feel enough pain, I suppose, to put the effort in to do the work, to find the joy that they could find. So I'd encourage everybody on the call to feel into the moment. I think, as Heidi said, not to focus necessarily on what your experiences were, but where you are at the moment and whether you're stuck or whether you're, experiencing life with your true, authentic self 100%. And if you are, fantastic. But keep moving. Don't stop there. I think that's also a good lesson.
Yeah, for all of those people that are in that place where they are, they're living life out loud. I love that saying. You are a beacon for all the other people in the world that haven't gotten there yet, right? I mean, my belief is that we will all get there. And it's like, how fast do you get there? And when you take an active role in your happiness, when you're taking ownership of your life and what's working, what's not working, then you get there faster. So notice what you want.
And you bring others along, right? I think that's what you said. Yeah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. So let's talk about the benefits. We talked a bit about some of the negative aspects of not doing this, of not creating this triumph. But let's focus our minds now on, we're getting there. We're finding a way to move from the tragedy into the triumph. What sort of benefits can we expect to come into our lives as a result of doing this work?
Common things are happiness, feeling more joy. A lot of times, like energetically, people will be exhausted because they've been holding on to these things for so long. Like our emotions are energy in motion. And so the natural state is for us to move through these emotions. Like fear is necessary. That's why we have it. Fear protects us. What happens, again, like I said earlier, is when we are, clutching onto the fear and stuck in it. That's not the intention. The intention is to learn what the fear has to offer us and move forward. Anger is nature's motivator. Anger is the alarm that tells us something isn't working. And it gives us that boost, that energy boost to stand up, to say, speak our truth. It gives us the energy to do things differently. That is anger, and it's positive as long as we're moving through it and not, getting stuck and projecting it on others or causing others harm. So when we're holding on to these things, as I was, and as I've seen with other people, when you explore these emotions and you look through them, what do they have to offer, express them, learn the message, people have all of this energy, right? All of this life energy that's been locked up. And, it's a beautiful thing to witness that.
That's amazing. And I can relate to that, the energy that you get, that boost from moving into that space is amazing. And it's a gift that can be shared energetically as well. So again, it has a huge impact on your relationships, on people around you. I think if you wake up in the morning full of energy and a joy for life, that's not only a gift for yourself, but a gift for others. Are there any more sort of concrete benefits you feel people can expect from moving in this direction?
Yeah, relationships, huge changes in relationships. Like when you feel more comfortable in your skin, right? Which is what all of this work is, a journey into ourselves and getting to know who we are. Like I said, that relationship with self is so important. When I trust myself, when I love myself, then I am more loving with others. I have more trust with others. I'm noticing the amazing things in the people around me. And so, letting go of resentments in relationships just allows for more love to bloom. And so people are, enjoying life in their relationships more when they're doing this work.
Well, that sounds pretty good. So it's good for you and it's good for the people around you. So it seems like a no-brainer in a way, as I think they say in America. Or is that just something I say? I don't know. Anyway, the question that came to me next around that was that this is so obvious. Why aren't we doing it? And I suppose one of the reasons is that change is hard, and especially doing change alone is hard. So, what can you recommend for people who are maybe listening and thinking, oh, I really love what Heidi's saying, but I don't know how to go about it? Are there any sort of resources or pointers you could share with our listeners?
Yeah, well, the biggest tip for me, and the biggest starting point for everyone that I work with, is being willing to look at the challenges differently. And so, you have given me an amazing opportunity to share tools and strategies through a year of joy on how to start thinking differently, how to use these challenging situations to find joy, how to find the joy in the challenging situations. And that starts by looking at them for what is good in that situation. And, I was looking for the good in everything around me except for the intense experience from my childhood, because it felt like it was too big or it was too bad and ugly. That's why I called my book Making Friends with the Boogeyman, because it was terrifying. But once I made friends with the boogeyman, that's how I was able to transform tragedy into triumph, because exploring the situation from a different angle, asking questions like, what good came out of this? And I've shared an exercise on that. Will be you're kind enough to share an article that I wrote about this with the audience. So just taking time to explore things from a different point of view and being willing to see everything in your life as happening for you instead of to you. And so looking for those things, because ultimately everything is your perspective. Everything is the choices that you make. You decide what your story is. And you can make it a hero story, or you can make it a victim story, or you can make it a hero story. And, that is, I get excited about that, because when I see people taking charge of their happiness, the way that they, take charge of, their career, or, they're looking after their family. When people take charge of looking after themselves with the same, excitement and enthusiasm that they care for other people, I mean, the shifts are extraordinary. Wow.
It's amazing. And I love the way you mentioned story. Yeah. I'm so happy that within the Year of Joy, we have Karen Golden talking about stories and storytelling and how to write your own story, how to tell your own story. So these two go really nicely together. I love the way you talked about changing your mindset from life happening to you to life happening for you. Just one little word changes everything, right? So I think the language is important, the way we talk about ourselves and the way we talk about our experiences, or do we talk about our experiences? I think many people shut them down, as you say, and not going to talk about that boogeyman to anybody, right? So you deny some degree. So do you find talking about things, does that help if you had like a coach or somebody to talk to? Do you find that tends to help people get through their experiences rather than trying to do it alone?
Absolutely, you need support. I feel that I'm in recovery, and they say life is a we program. We don't do it alone. And so life is just much easier when you learn to ask for help. But that was one of the most beautiful lessons that I learned. It's just, like making that shift from life is hard to, life is beautiful. And part of life being beautiful is inviting people to share in your experience, and talking about what you've been through and owning what's happened in your life, and looking for ways to find the advantage in what you've been through, because we can't change the past. We know that it's done. And so what we decide to do with it today, that's the exciting thing. And so, the type of coaching that I do is all about action. So people embracing themselves, loving who they are, accepting the emotions that they have, expressing them. Like, it's okay to be angry. It's perfectly acceptable to be afraid. Trusting someone with your shame and letting that out of your body and learning the positive purpose of that, because even shame has a positive purpose. And then when you know that, you get to do things differently, and then your life is different.
And you can start today, right? Even if that was 5 minutes ago, 5 years ago, or 50 years ago, that intense experience, it doesn't matter, right? It's what matters is where we move from here. What's our next move? And I think one of my coaches from early on, told me the wise words that standing still isn't an option, because the world's moving forward. So if you're standing still, you're actually going backwards. So, your only option is to move forward, but to decide how you want to move forward, that's totally in your power to make that choice, and to take ownership of that choice, I think, is the call to action that you're encouraging people here to do when they look at their tragedies and their intense experiences, to say, okay, that's fine, but what do I do next? What do I do with this knowledge that Heidi has now given me to move forward?
Yes, it's about embracing all of you, right? And that includes the things that you don't want to look at, that you're afraid to look at. So this is, getting support to do that so that you can accept all of you. And that's the bottom line, is when I am accepting everything about myself and recognizing that all of it is useful. All of it is actually, my anger, my fear, my shame, my sadness. These are all servants to me. I am the master, right? And so that was the big shift for me, because my emotions used to run me. And so now where I am is like, I have love and respect for the emotions, but I'm the one that's in charge. And when you get to a place where you've explored these things that you've been pushing down, and so there's this compulsion for them to be expressed. When that's addressed and you get back to homeostasis, then the emotions come and they don't run you anymore, because you see the value in them and you can use them to your advantage.
And that is a whole new topic, using emotions to your advantage. And so we will have to save that one, unfortunately, for another chat. It's been such a pleasure talking with you today. I've enjoyed this. I've learned a lot from listening to you, and I believe our listeners had too. So thank you for sharing your thoughts Heidi, one question we always like to ask our guests really is a simple question of what brings you joy?
Oh, bless you. Yes, I was looking forward to talking about joy. What brings me joy? Being myself. I was hanging out with a friend of over 20 years last night, and we were just being goofy and laughing all these different ways and just, dancing, laughing. Music brings me joy. Connecting with people brings me joy. Being outside in nature, it's so beautiful. Any kind of beauty, nature, clothes, shoes. My husband thinks it's crazy, but beauty brings me joy. My dog, love brings me joy.
Oh man, such a wonderful list of things. Hopefully our listeners can find some inspiration from those and go and find their own and ask themselves, what brings me joy? And there's a million things in the world you can find joy from. So it's a bottomless pit, fortunately. So thank you once again.
It is a smorgasbord. Yeah.
A smorgasbord of joy. Everybody can go and create their own joy cocktail, as we like to say, or joy meal out of all these wonderful ingredients. Well, thank you once again, Heidi. It really has been a pleasure and a joy to chat with you today.
Thank you so much, Andrew.
And I hope you, our listeners, enjoyed the podcast episode as much as I have. And I hope you feel inspired to work on your intense experiences to move forward, as Heidi would say. And if so, please check out the show notes for links to Heidi and her resources. If you are already a member of the Year of Joy community, please join us in the community forum, where over the next few weeks, we'll be working together on integrating some of Heidi's tips into our lives, which should be a lot of fun. And if you're not already a member of the Year of Joy community, please visit the artandscienceofjoy.com website to find out more and give it a go. It's free. And who doesn't like free stuff? Thanks once again for listening. And I hope you tune in for the next episode of the Art and Science of Joy podcast. Until then, stay well, stay joyful, and live in triumph.